Hey guys, welcome back to the stuff. This is video one of 3 or 4 of a bar build that I did in my kitchen, which looks a bit like this. So that is my bar. That is in my kitchen. It's got some lights on it and it holds my booze. I think it looks great. I'm really pleased with it. This, as I said earlier, will be video one of 4, I think, maybe 3, depending on how much I squeeze into the other ones. But this one is going to go into the carcass and the framing in the alcove. So yeah, let's pop over to the kitchen, get amongst it. So this is the alcove where I'm going to be putting the bar. So as you can see, it's just empty at the moment, all the way up. I've been meaning to put something in there since I finished the kitchen a while ago, but it's just been stored with rubbish. So I've cleared all that out and I'm going to fit a bar. So there's a couple of ways that I could do this. One is just to build a cabinet which will sit in there, just freestanding. The other way is to build it in and make it look like it's a built-in unit. So I'm going to go built-in unit route. So just the other side of where I'm going to put my new bar as a built-in unit, I've already had a go at doing that. So a couple of years ago I built this like built-in shelving area. So what I did for this unit was build a frame on the floor, batten the walls, and then drop the shelves and the base in, and then offer up a face frame on the front before putting which held the doors. So the most of the construction was MDF, and then I did a pine face frame, added an MDF top. That worked really well. It's quite a simple construction. You can see the walls in the inside and the back, which is not a problem because I've got so much rubbish in that cupboard that it doesn't matter. The other way that I could have done it was to build a carcass beforehand, and then put in some filler pieces essentially, which is also I think a method that I could have done it, and then put a worktop on top. So it's up to you which way you want to go. For this one I did that. When I come to do this one, I am going to be doing a mix. So because I want to have a bar in here, essentially this space is going to be wine rack, glass rack, wine rack, and then a space for wine cooler, or beer fridge, and then worked up on top. So what I'm going to do for the wine cooler, for the wine rack, sorry, and the glasses, I'm going to build a carcass out of MDF. I'm then going to leave a gap from a fridge, and to make it look built in, I'm just going to put filler pieces on the left hand side and on the right hand side before I put the worktop on, and hopefully that'll make more sense later on once I've got the carcass of the wine rack built. I'd already decided in my head what I wanted the bar to look like, or especially where the glasses and the wine bottles are going to go, so I gave it a quick sketch just so I knew what size material I was going to cut, and then it was off out to the shed to start the cutting. For this project I was using moisture resistant MDF, a little bit more expensive than normal MDF, but is a bit more robust and is actually really nice to work with. Once I'd got all the pieces cut out that I needed for the sort of carcass of the bar, I laid them out on my kitchen floor and started to mark out where all of the shelves were going to go and where all of the pieces were going to join together. This would allow me then to drill and countersink all of the holes, ready to be glued and screwed. I could have used another method of joining this, I guess. I could have rebaited slightly into each of the side panels and then just glued the shelves in. However, I decided actually it was because I'm not going to see most of the holes, I'd only have to fill a few of them. So I decided to go for gluing and screwing because it was just easier for manufacturing construction in my shed. The construction of the unit started with the sides and the sort of shelves where the wine bottles were going to be stowed. So I was using one of the shelves to mark the height. The wine bottle holes, or the shelves where the wine bottle is going to go, were square. So it was easy then to clamp one of the shelves to the one that I just put on. That gave me the height, and I could just keep going up that until I had both sides done. I then moved on to the centre section and just glued and screwed that together as well. So I've screwed and glued most of it together now. You can see all the screw holes on the back here. I'll fill all those on one side, because one side will be visible when I've finished. And all I've got to do now is put a support across there and one across there, and hopefully that'll stand up on its own. Luckily my marking out went really well, and all the sides were exactly the same, or both sides were exactly the same, and the middle bit slotted in really nicely, and there was just enough room to get my drill driver in order to screw all three pieces together. To fill the holes, I used a 2-part wood filler from Ronseal. You just mix a little bit of the hardener with a big ball of the filler, mix it thoroughly, and then just put that in the holes. This stuff dries within half an hour, so you can get the sanding done, or the filling done, and then the sanding all in sort of one session. And I just sanded all that back with 120 and then a 240, just because I'm painting this one side. So now I've got the main bulk of the unit cut. I've also cut another side, that's just behind me. I'm going to now, you can see where I've marked out around the alcove, so that is where the level of the worktop is going to be, and what I'm going to do is use some of this batten to make myself a frame on the wall. I'm using a bit of plywood over here for this gap, because when the unit is butted up against, it does leave an 18mm gap, and I don't have any 18mm just rough sawn batten, so I'm just using a bit of plywood, probably non-standard, but that's what I've got, so that's what I'm going to use. That's actually stud work on with plasterboard on, so I'll just be going into the studs, and I'll drill a couple of holes in this wall. Over here, because I'm going to essentially frame this off, I'll have a bit of wood scribed this side and this side. That bit of wood is going to go on the vertical, and that'll allow me to attach my framework to on the outside. So hopefully that makes sense. The battens are just affixed to the walls using some screws at the back, where I've located onto a stud wall, or the studs of the stud wall. And on the wall that you're looking at here, where I've got the level out for, is a brick wall, which I've just drilled into with a 6mm drill bit, and used a Fisher Duo Power wall plug, and just screwed the bit of plywood in this case to the wall. Okay, so I've got my framework in, sort of battens that'll hold the worktop, and I'll also screw the cabinet to the side there, and the other side of it when I put it in to that side. The only other thing I've done is put in a double socket at the back. It's just surface mounted, because I'm only going to be behind under a unit, so there's no need to dig into the walls. And then I haven't bought the cable clips, but I'll put the cable clips along the top of the skirting board to where it's going to be powered from. That'll power my fridge when I've got in there, and hopefully some LED lights, which I'm going to put under the shelves. Before I connect or affix all of the unit in place in the alcove, what I need to do is paint this. What I've done is make a massive mistake. I hate painting, so I just cracked on with the carcass there, and I just screwed it all together, glued and screwed. But what I should have done was paint all of the internals before this point, because now it's going to be a bit of a pain to paint inside of where the wine bottles are going to go. All this is going to be white, so I'm going to give it a coat of Zinsser as a base coat, and then a couple of top coats of white satin. Not going to paint the edges because I'm going to be facing those with pine later. But yeah, I've got a nice spray gun that I could have used, but useless to do those because it'll be dripping everywhere. So I'm going to get down to the job I hate the most, which is painting, and I've made it much more difficult for myself. For the paint on the MDF, I'm going for my my go-to primer, which is Zinsser Bin. I've talked about this a few times in my videos previously. I really like the product, it goes on really easily, and yeah, provides a good base to put the top coat on. In this case, I'm just using some Dulux satin wood white paint. So I've moved on a stage further now, and I've got the unit sort of in the alcove. I've added this bit of MDF because what I felt was I needed a side on the other side, and the fridge will slot in that gap. You can see quite clearly now that I've built this unit square, but my walls are not, so this one sort of bows out and also sort of sweeps off to the left, and this one not as bad but does take an angle as well. So what I've done is, because I want the front to be relatively square to something, I've actually just measured out 500 from the back wall to the front of the unit, and that's on both sides, and I'm hoping that'll provide some sort of squareness. I've got no idea whether that wall is actually parallel to the house, but the front of this will be parallel to that wall, which I feel like is a good start. So what I need to do now is get this fixed in. You can see some screws at the top there. I'm going to screw that to the battens on this side. I'm going to screw this side through that batten, that's the vertical one, into that side, so I don't have any screws on this side. And I'll do the same down the bottom along here. And hopefully that'll then be ready for me to start thinking about doing all of the sort of pine facing off or edging in, which is the bit that comes next. So there we have it. That is part one of my bar build. I'll be back next week with part two. But for now, because I've already actually built that bar and I'm filming these intros retrospectively, my bar is actually built. So I get the joy of celebrating with a little cocktail. And today, I've got a little rum sour. Cheers. Oh, that is delightful. Remember, you stay safe, get some stuff done.